Hello, my name is Keshwani. That's K-E-S-H-W-A-N-I, Keshwani. We are here because we want to prepare for the GMAT. We have been solving GMAT math problems out of this book here, GMAT Review, the official guide, the 13th edition. If you do not own this book already, purchase one immediately. You're going to need it. The book contains 230 problem-solving questions. It has 174 data sufficiency questions. We have already solved all of these problems. If you're interested in watching the original solutions to any one of these problems, you will find the original solutions from day number 1 through 250. Right now, we are in the process of redoing the problems, and we are on page number 163. Please turn to it. Page number 163. The very first problem that you see there in the second column, number 80. Number 80. We are told that S equals to the sum of the reciprocals of the consecutive integers from 201 to 300 inclusive. Now, what we have to understand here, and the question is the value of m that they call it m. In the book they call it m. I'm calling it s for the sum because it's easier to talk about it. What we need to understand is that they're not asking here, listen very carefully, they're not asking us what is the value of s. That's not what they're asking. That is not the question here. If you look at the answer choices carefully, you will see that what they're looking for is the lower bound and the upper bound for this value, the sum. What they're looking for is, where does the sum fall? The sum of these 100 integers, 201 through 300 are exactly 100 integers. If you want to take the reciprocal of these numbers and add them up, 1 over 201 plus 1 over 202 plus 1 over 203 plus so on and so on and so on and so forth, plus 1 over 298 plus 1 over 299 and finally 1 over 300. If you were to add them up, the value, the sum, is going to fall between which two bounds? That's what they're looking for. They're not looking for the exact value. So let's see what we can do, okay? Here's what you can do. Since we are looking for upper and lower bounds, what we are looking for are extreme scenarios. So let's look for extreme scenarios. Let's ask ourselves, what are the extreme scenarios, the two ends of this scenario, of this situation? Well, if they were all 300, they're not. We are speaking hypothetically. Do you understand? If they were all 300, then we know that the sum would have been 1 over 300. If they were all 300, if every single one of them was 300, and there are 100 of them, 201 through 300, there are 100 integers, and if there were every single one of them was 300, then the reciprocal of 300 would have been 1 over 300, and we would have had 100 of those. Similarly, if they were all 200, again we are speaking hypothetically, in that case the sum would have been 1 over 200 times 100. That's all. Or to be more precise, if you want to be pedantic, if you want to be real precise, it would have been 1 over 201. If they were all 201, because we start with 201, let's just pretend it's 200. If they were all 200, I know we start with 201, and if it makes you happier, we can put 201 here. In that case, here the two zeros are going to cancel out, and we end up with 1 over 3. S would have to equal 1 over 3. if they all happen to be 300. On the other hand, if they all happen to be 201, then the sum is going to be 1 over 200 times 100, which is approximately, in this case, S is going to be approximately half. There you go. It's between 1/3 and half. It's between 1/3 and half. The lower bound is 1/3. Where can we stick it? The lower bound is 1/3, and upper bound is 1/2. The sum of these 100 integers, or rather, not the sum, but the reciprocal of the sum of the reciprocal rather, not the reciprocal of the sum. The sum of the reciprocal of these 100 integers from 201 through 300 will have to be between 1/3 and 1/2. 1/3 would be this, would have been the exact value if every one of them was 1 over 300, and 1/2 would have been the exact value of the exact sum of the 100 integers if all of those integers were exactly 200. Sum is going to fall between these two values. Let's go on to the next one. Number 81. Number 81. In number 81, we are told that we are working together, A and B working together, make 800 units in X hours. A by itself makes 800 units in Y hours. The question is, how long does B take to make 800 units? As you can tell, it's an algebra problem. It's an algebra problem, and therefore, the best, more efficient, the most efficient, the smartest, the most clever way to do these kind of questions, the algebra questions on the exam, is to do them without the algebra. Now the question is, how do we do actually an algebra problem without the algebra? Well, the answer is very simple. We have done this many times by plugging in numbers. Make up the values for this variable. Make up some nice number for the variables. And thereby convert this algebra problem into a simple arithmetic problem. Now, how simple that arithmetic problem will become will depend on how smart you are in choosing your numbers. Pick some numbers that are nice numbers to work with here. For example, let's pretend that A and B working together make 800 units in 2 hours. I'm going to pretend that X equals 2. So A and B make 800 in X hours. I'm going to pretend X is 2. Well, if X is 2, that implies that A and B make 400 units per hour, because we are pretending that X equals 2. Okay? The question is how long does B take? Well, and A we are told by itself makes 800 in Y hours. Let's make up a nice number for Y. Let's pretend that Y is, what do you want to make up? Let's make it 8. So that tells us, this part tells us that A makes 100 units per hour. If A, listen, we're almost done. If A makes 100 units per hour, now why does A make 100 units per hour? Because that's how we chose our numbers. We are pretending that A makes 800 units in 8 hours. We're plugging in 8 for Y, which means A makes 100 units in 1 hour. 100 units in 1 hour. Here we found out that A and B together make 400 units in 1 hour. Put these two statements together, and that implies that B must make 300 units per hour. Well, if he's making 300 units per hour, how long is it going to take him to make 800 units? That's all it is. That's how simple it is. Let's find out. Let's do it here. So here's the hours, here are the units, and we just found out that it makes 300 units per hour. So in 1 hour he makes 300 units, and therefore how many hours will it take him to make 800 units? How many hours for 800 units? That tells us that x must equal 800 over 300. 800 over 300, which is same as 8 over 3. This is our answer. Now keep listening. That's our final answer. This is what we refer to. This is what we refer to as our punchline. I'm not sure if punchline is hyphenated or not. This is our punchline. All we have to do at this point, is to go through the answer choices. Wherever we see x, we're going to replace with 2. Wherever we see y, we're going to replace it with 8, until we find one answer choice that gives us our answer, which is 8 over 3. Let's do it here. I need the room, so I'm going to erase all of this thing, but first I'm going to get out of your way. So one more time very quickly before I erase it, before I erase everything. We were told that A and B working together make 800 units in x hours. We plugged in some nice number here for x, which is nicely divisible by 800. We plugged in 2, which means they're making 800 units in 2 hours, which means they're making 400 units every hour. A and B together make 400 units every hour. Then they go on to tell us that A by itself makes 800 units in y hours. We plugged in 8 for y, which tells us that A is making 100 units per hour. 800 units in 8 hours, 800 units in 8 hours, which means A must make 100 units in 1 hour. See, it follows from here. Well, if A is making 100 units every hour, and together they're making 400 units every hour, then that implies that B must make 300 units every hour. And the question is, how long will B take to make 800 units? And the answer is 8 over 3. Let's see which of the answer choices gives us 8 over 3, shall we? Let's go through it. Of course, in the real exam, this whole process has to go very fast. You understand? In the real exam, the whole process has to go very fast. The first one says x over x plus y. Now remember, our x is 2 and our y is 8. Now x plus 2, listen carefully, x plus 2 is going to give us 10 at the bottom. It's going to give us 10 at the bottom. We are looking at 3 at the bottom. That's not the answer. Y over x plus y. B says y over x plus y. Again, x plus y is 10. We're looking for 3. B is not the answer. C says, again, C has the x plus y at the bottom. X plus y at the bottom is not going to work. X plus y is going to be 10. We need 3. That's not it. Let's look at D. D says x minus y. Well, x minus y is, x is 2, 2 minus 8. 2 minus 8 is going to give us negative 6. We don't need negative 6. We need 3. That's not it. The answer is E. Answer is E. Answer has to be E because it's the only one left. Let's take a look at E. X times y over y minus x. X times y is 2 times 8 over y minus x, which is 8 minus 2. And 8 minus 2 is 6. 8 minus 2 is 6. And that cancels out with 3, and we end up with 8 over 3, just like here. 8 over 3. That's our answer. Do you understand? That's all. Now the next part that we're going to do, is only for those people who are masochistic. Do you understand? I do not know if we ever learned that word, masochistic. People who like to inflict pain on themselves. People who find pleasure in having pain inflicted upon them by somebody, or they inflict pain on themselves. I don't think we ever learned the word masochistic. I'm being silly, of course. The next thing we're going to do here is just for learning purposes. We're going to see actually how to do this problem algebraically. But this is how I would do it in a real exam. I wouldn't do it algebraically, because in algebraically, when you try to solve the problem algebraically, it has two problems. One is that it takes too long, it takes a lot of time, and secondly, it's very easy to make a mistake when you're doing it algebraically. But just for learning purposes, we're going to do it algebraically here. I need the room. Let's do it up here. Answer is E. We are done. That's the answer. A, we are told, takes Y hours to make 800. That implies that A will take 1 hour to make 800 over Y. That also implies that A will take X hours. In X hours, it can make Y 800 over Y times X. One more time. We are told that in Y hours, X can make 800. We are told that in Y hour, A, not X. We are told that in Y hours, A can make 800 units. It tells us in the problem. It tells us in the problem that A makes 800 units in Y hour. A in Y hour makes 800 units. Well, if in Y hour it makes 800, then in 1 hour it should be able to make 800 over Y. And therefore in X hours it will make this much amount. It will make this much amount. Well, we need to make total of 800. We need to make a total of 800. So that implies that B has to make, this implies that B has to make the remaining 800 minus this quantity, 800 over this quantity in X hours. In X hours. Let's simplify this thing. If you simplify this thing, I'm not going to actually show all the algebraic steps. If I need to show all the algebraic steps, then this is not meant for you, and you understand? So if you simplify this thing, you take out the 800 common, 800 out comes out, and this is Y minus X over Y in X hours. We don't need to make this many units, we just need to make 800 units, and that implies that we can make 800 units in X divided by this quantity, Y minus X over Y, which boils down to X times Y over Y minus X. But as I told you before, this is not meant for everybody. This is not meant for everybody. In order for you to do this problem algebraically with a decent amount of speed, without making any careless mistakes, you have to be fairly good in algebra. And if you're not, stick with the plug-in technique. The only reason I did this method is to let you see and make you appreciate the nicety, the easiness, the beauty of the simpler method, which is the plugging in method. But this is the algebraic way. Let's do the very last problem on in the book. The very last. Just give me a second. Very last problem actually is very childish. In the very last problem, number 82, we have household expense, we have food, and we have miscellaneous stuff. Let's call them E, F, and M. And we are told that they are in a ratio of 5 to 2 to 1. 5 to 2 to 1. I need the room, so we're going to have to erase this part. 5 to 2 to 1, 5 to 2 to 1. Well, 5 to 2 to 1, 5 plus 2 is 7, 7 plus 1 is 8. There are 8 parts. And we are told that total amount that we are spending is 1800. So these 8 parts have to equal 1800. The question is, how much money do we spend on food? Well, food is 2 parts. 2 parts out of 8 parts, that's 1/4. So the amount of money that we're going to spend on food is 1/4 of that amount. So if you were to divide this by 4 and we divide this by 4, we'll end up with 2 parts. 1800 divided by 4 is how much? Well, let's find out. How many? 18 has 4 fours are 16. 4 fours are 16. The remaining 2 goes, it joins the 0 and becomes 20. And 20 has 5 fours. And then how many 4s in a 0? 0 has no 4s. So the answer is 450. The answer is 450. 1800 divided by 4 is 450. I will see you tomorrow, okay? I lost my cap. I'll see you tomorrow, okay? Bye now.